Hi, welcome to HowtoDandD. My name is Fred Wheeler and today I want to talk about Dungeons and Dragons. And today's topic is the Monk, one of my favourite classes. So I'm always excited to see what they have produced for the Monk. I am biased. I do admit it, I am definitely biased. So the topic is Exploiting Way of Mercy Monk in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. And I know that's a provocative title, but that's exactly what this video is all about. It's about getting the most out of that particular class and doing the sorts of things you'd like to do with it. I'm going to cover all of the material. You will see content from the book. I will explain everything and then I will give you my analysis about what you should do with those class features so that you can get the most out of them and to make sure you understand where it stands, because this particular monk is extremely powerful for a monk. So let's go through it. This subclass is by far, in my opinion, one of the best monks in the game, but it's not just that. It also changes the way that a monk class works in Dungeons and Dragons 5e. It also steps on the toes of many of the other subclasses or classes in the game. And I don't think a lot of people realize that, but it absolutely does do that. A lot of people, when they look at the flavor for this, and this is what the designers have told us, is the flavor of this monk is suggested as a plague doctor due to the odd or strange mask feature they have. But I would suggest to you that that's actually not where they got the idea from. I think they got the idea from somewhere else. And if you've watched plenty of kung fu movies or karate movies or watched Jet Li or know anything about Eastern culture, then you'll know that this monk has much more in common with the Eastern doctors of China and the ones that studied kung fu, because often Eastern doctors in China would also study kung fu. In fact, many people were studying kung fu. It didn't matter who you were. And there's a particular character that I think it represents, and that is Wong Fei Hong. Okay, local folk hero, a physician, and a master of kung fu who is renowned, well known throughout history. And I think that's where the Way of the Mercy Monk came from. The only thing is they've put their own particular spin on it, which I don't particularly like, but we'll go over it anyway. So monks of the Way of Mercy learn to manipulate the life force of others to bring aid to those who need it. They are wandering physicians to the poor and hurt. However, to those beyond their help, they bring a swift end as an act of mercy. This is the one part I don't really like that much. But then again, it's flavor, so you can change it. And it doesn't matter what my opinion is, it's only about what you care about. Those who follow the Way of Mercy might be members of a religious order, administering to the needs and making grim choices rooted in reality rather than idealism. Some might be gentle-voiced healers, beloved by the communities, while others might be masked bringers of macabre mercies. Well, what we're talking about is death. The walkers of this way usually don robes with deep cowls, and they often conceal their faces with masks, presenting themselves as the faceless bringers of life and death. So that is the flavour that the book in Tasha's gives you. But then again, as I said, you could change it to something else if you wanted to. The first couple of features we get are pretty impressive if you think in terms of I'm getting them at 3rd level and I get 3 of them. So I'll go through the first one. Implements of Mercy. This is at 3rd level and you gain proficiency in insight and medicine skills. You're also proficient with the herbalism kit. You also gain a special mask, which you often wear when using your features of the subclass. You determine its appearance or generate it randomly by rolling on the merciful mask table. Okay, so let's have a look at this table really quickly. So the options that they have given you: raven, blank or white, a crying visage, a laughing visage, a skull, a butterfly, but frankly you could make up anything you liked. It didn't have to be this. One of the things it does not state is what happens if you lose your mask. How do you get another one? I know a lot of people won't really care about that sort of thing, but I thought I would at least mention it since I'm sure somebody might be interested in that whole concept. First off, I would like to point out that the mask is kind of pointless. Any class could wear a mask. They could go and buy it from a shop, and they could use it to deceive their enemies in terms of making them think that they are a trained doctor, or concealing their appearance, or just trying to intimidate another creature. Okay, so masks aren't sort of something that another class couldn't use, but apparently this is supposed to be the touchstone for this class. I don't think that the mask needs to be something you are beholden to. You could ditch the mask. I know a lot of people don't like the concept of the mask. The other thing I'd like to point out is the proficiency in insight, medicine, and the herbalism kit punishes any kind of player who selects them at level 1, because you get these at level 3. So that's a big drag. Suddenly you've started your character off, and then the next thing you know, when they get to level 3, they are now proficient in insight, medicine, and the herbalism kit. Whereas I know a lot of players will want to do that from the very get-go in terms of how they construct their character. Another thing I'd like to point out is the medicine skill proficiency, or medicine skill itself, can just about be completely replaced by just buying a healer's kit for a lot of the features that it has available to you. It is very thematic, but there are some problems, I think, with regard to how this is implemented in your game and sort of the mechanics behind it. The extra skills are nice, okay? Getting 2 skills and a tool proficiency, those are nice. But if you already have them, you should be able to, or be allowed to, select an alternative if you've already selected these. But it says nothing about this in the book, so you're now beholden to your dungeon master to see if they will allow you to do this. I think that's a bit of a drag. But then again, I'm sure that a lot of you are not necessarily going to be playing Dungeons and Dragons Adventurers League. Anyway, you'll be playing in your own games. Okay, the next feature. Hand of Healing. You get this at 3rd level. Your mystical touch can now mend wounds. As an action, you can spend 1 key, should be called chi, really, because that's really what it is. 1 key point to touch a creature and restore a number of hit points equal to a roll of your martial arts die, which will change over time, plus your wisdom modifier. Okay, that's a pretty good feature. I like this, and you don't normally see this sort of thing in any kind of monk, right? When you used your flurry of blows, though, you can replace one of your unarmed strikes with the use of this feature without spending a key point for the healing. That's actually a very important factor, because this now means you can use this in multiple locations rather than just one location. You can use this feature with your flurry of blows in combat to save your key points. That would be the smart thing to do, is to make sure you try to pump it out at that particular time. Of course, you don't have to do it that way. But you can, as it happens, you can also use it as a bonus action. I think a lot of people don't think about that. Flurry of blows is a bonus action. So essentially, in combat, you're using healing as a bonus action, and this is really rare. It's like using Healing Word or the Healing Word spell, but it's not at range. So that's a really strong feature. This is the only monk that can heal, which makes it a game changer for me. I frankly love the fact that they have based the monk very much what I think is an Eastern doctor, which is great. It's nice to see. The 3rd ability. Now, this is Hand of Harm. This is the go-to that a lot of people are going to be really gravitating towards, particularly because you do get it at 3rd level. Hand of Harm. You can use a key to inflict wounds. Okay, so you can do this. When you hit a creature with an unarmed strike, you can spend 1 key point to deal extra necrotic damage equal to 1 roll of your martial arts die plus your wisdom modifier. You can use this feature only once per turn. Okay, so you can't pump it out all the time if you have multiple attacks and just sort of spam it in one turn if you really wanted to. But There are other times you can use it, and I'll explain to you what I mean by that, because I thought it was quite amusing that they put this feature in, and they've clearly specified that you could only use it once per turn to stop people supernovaing it in a particular turn. So what you're getting is extra damage by making an unarmed monk strike, and it's like doing a paladin smite, essentially. Okay, that's what you're essentially doing. It's a paladin smite. It may not be quite as powerful as your paladin smite, but it's still pretty effective. This is actually better than the Flurry of Blows ability, because you don't have to worry about hitting the target. So if you have a choice between spending a key point on using your Hand of Harm, when you use your action to make an attack, and then your bonus action using your martial arts, you're going to get 2 attacks, 2 chances to hit. If you hit, you use, of course, Hand of Harm, rather than going and spending your Flurry of Blows, okay, to make an attack, where there is a chance where you might actually miss. So it's always better to go with the guaranteed damage. And of course, you can apply your Hand of Harm to either the bonus action martial arts attack or the standard action attack. Okay, so you don't have to worry about hitting. That's the real key thing. Now, for those of you who were upset that you couldn't spam this thing during a turn, you can still supernova this little sucker, Hand of Harm, in one battle. Okay, and then take a short rest to get all of your key points back, because you get them back at the end of a short rest. Well, actually, I do believe it specifies 30 minutes of where you sort of focus and do some meditation. But it's probably going to be during a short rest as such, as far as I remember. Anyway, okay, so it's a really good feature, and guess what? It's going to get better. Trust me, it gets a lot better than that. This is quite unusual. You see this feature and you think, well, what's the deal with this 4th feature? Physician's Touch. At level 6 you get it. You can administer even greater cures with a touch. If you feel it's necessary, you can use your knowledge to cause harm. When you use your Hand of Healing on a creature, you can also end one disease or one of the following conditions afflicting the creature: blinded, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, or stunned. This is a big deal, because can you think, does a paladin get that level of option? It is actually there. You can use this. Like, how often can you use it? Well, it doesn't stipulate. There's no limitation. You could keep using it on and over and over and over again. So it's like being a paladin, essentially, removing disease and other conditions. It's a very good feature. It will only be, of course, circumstantial. When you use Hand of Harm on a creature, you can subject that creature to the poison condition until the end of your next turn. And this is actually really important, because what this means is not only can you shut down the rare times that a monster's special ability will apply disease or a condition to your character or another character, because you could do it on yourself, you could just punch yourself, okay, if you really wanted to get rid of the condition. But you can apply it, the poison condition, to a monster, and there's no saving throw. There's no mention of a saving throw to make the attack. Hand of Harm is going to work no matter what, because you only apply it to whatever strikes. It's actually better than Stunning Strike, because Stunning Strike has a chance to fail. The other thing I'd like to point out is, yes, poison condition, there are lots of monsters that are resistant or immune to poison damage or the poison condition. Okay, and so therefore that might not work with them. But that doesn't matter, because if this doesn't work, then you just go with the Stunning Strike, okay, and you'll solve that problem. But it's really good to have a feature that just works automatically. There's no dice rolling. There are less dice rolling in the game that occurs, and the more things actually work all the time, it's better for you. And this works all the time. So why would you not use it? Of course you're going to use it. Absolutely. Okay, the 5th ability. This is Flurry of Healing and Harm, and this is where things really start to ramp up at level 11 for the Way of the Mercy Monk. You can now mete out flurry of comfort and hurt. When you use your flurry of blows, you can replace each of the unarmed strikes with the use of your hand of healing without spending key points for those healing. Okay? No key points. You're only using it. Okay? 1 key point for the flurry of blows. So that's really important. In addition, when you make an unarmed strike with flurry of blows, you can use your hand of harm with that strike without spending a key point for the hand of harm. You can still only use hand of harm once per turn. So it's making the use of your key points less important. You can now use 1 key point to heal twice in a bonus action. What class can do that? You name me a class that can actually heal somebody twice. You can punch more than one individual if you wanted to apply your healing hand, okay? It's not really like you're punching them. I guess it's more like you're touching them in an appropriate way, okay? But you can do that as a bonus action, and you can do it twice. Now, every round, you're going to use 1 key point for your flurry of blows and use your hand of harm. That's probably going to be your go-to at that level, just about every single time you get the opportunity to do so. Okay, makes a lot of sense. I would do it. Why wouldn't you do that? Okay, the last feature, which I know a few people looked at and thought, well, it's a capstone feature and it's a long way off, but, what's the big deal? So Hand of Ultimate Mercy, you get this at level 17. Your mastery of life energy opens the doors to ultimate mercy. As an action, you can touch the corpse of a creature that died within the past 24 hours and expend 5 key points. The creature then returns to life, regaining a number of hit points equal to 4d10 plus your wisdom modifier. If the creature died while subjected to any of the following conditions, it revives them with them removed. So you can get rid of the blind, deafened, paralyzed, poisoned, and stunned conditions if they had them when they died. Of course, usually we don't apply those sorts of things when somebody comes back to life anyway. That's what I do as a dungeon master. I don't know what other people do, but I don't see that there was too much to worry about here. But it does actually stipulate that just in case a dungeon master says, no, you've got these conditions when you come back to life. Once you use this feature, you can't use it again until you finish a long rest. I'm fine with that. Now, let's break down what we've got here, because it's actually really important to sort of stipulate some of the things that it says and doesn't say. Guess what? You can now bring back an NPC or non-player character that is dead with important information. So it actually has a reasonable use. At higher levels, I know either you have a game where your players' characters never die, or you have a game where there's constantly death taking place because you're playing at such a high level and you're dealing with such nasty threats. It really depends on the type of dungeon master you're playing with. If you're playing Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League, a lot of those battles will be extremely difficult, okay? Particularly if you're playing in something like the Epics. They are not easy battles to deal with. So, bringing somebody back to life, 5 key points, it's a pretty good deal. You can now use this ability in a battle or outside of combat. It doesn't stipulate that it has to be in combat. So outside of combat, it could be used. It's actually better than the Raise Dead spell or the Resurrection spell because it's an action to use the thing. It imposes no penalties. It uses no materials whatsoever. It has no components to it other than the touch. So it's pretty good. It's in fact better than Revivify and Reincarnate because there are no material components required whatsoever. There's a couple of other features to this ability that I think a few people have failed to realize. There's no mention in this ability of failing to bring the creature back to life. Often when you look at some of the spells that the other classes are casting, there's a stipulation that the creature only comes back to life if it wants to come back to life. Well, you can now force a creature to come back to life with this thing. They don't have a choice. There's no stipulation there. Or you can also see there's no mention that you have to have all the body parts there. So that means if somebody's lost their brain, lost an arm, lost a leg, a hand, the heart's been pulled out or something horrible like that, you can still bring them back to life. Now, I've had a discussion with one of my friends and they said, well, yeah, you'd bring them back to life, but because they don't have the body part, they would just die again. But I don't think that was the intention. In terms of rules as intended, I think it's probably right within that parameter. I think that's going to work fine. And as raw, it's certainly within raw as far as I can tell. The recently dead creatures are going to regain hit points, okay? A lot more hit points than something like Raise Dead or Revivify. And that's actually really important. A lot of the Raise Dead or resurrection spells that you use, apart from 2 that I know of, they actually impose penalties on the character when they come back from death. And that is a bit of a drag if you're playing in any game. Because, of course, you've then got to wait the appropriate, 4 days before you finally get rid of all of those penalties. Because you get like a -4 to any D20 roll, essentially, which is a drag, right? This monk is now the new cleric. It's your better choice. Certainly for bringing somebody back to life, but even trying to heal somebody, and certainly to get rid of conditions. A lot of the conditions you can get rid of are duplicating spells that are actually, use up spell slots. One key point is easier to get back than a spell slot. You've got to wait like a whole day and have a long rest to get back your spell slots. But with a key point, it's a short rest, and you can just keep going. But the other thing is, those conditions that you remove, they're not dependent. They're not really dependent on key points. Okay? They just work all the time. This is one of the great things about a class that doesn't rely on rolling a dice to actually have a feature work. So the Way of the Mercy Monk doesn't use very many hit key points. You'll notice that actually the further through the class you get, the more efficient it becomes at conserving key points for any monk subclass. In comparison to other monk classes, you actually burn quite a lot of key points. So now you should use more of your monk key powered features in the game, simply because you're not going to use very many with this particular subclass, so you might as well. Using Stunning Strike every turn after a level 11. So when you get to about a level 11, when you get the Flurry of Healing and Harm, then it makes more sense to use your Stunning Strike every turn after level 11 with your Flurry of Healing and Harm feature. It's a practical strategy now. You could actually do this, as in most battles, like most battles are like 3 or 4 rounds, then they end. Then your group is then going to try to take a short rest. You take a short rest, you get all of your key points back, and away you go. And also to remember that if you are striking a creature that is resistant or immune, more likely immune to the poison condition, then frankly you don't need to worry about that. That's why you can strike multiple creatures and divvy out the poison condition, or go with the Stunning Strike and stun them. So it actually gives you a lot of versatility in terms of playing the game. You want to take short rests as often as you possibly can, after every battle in most cases if possible. This is what you really want to go for, and I'm sure most players are trying to do that already. I'd also like to point out that Dungeons & Dragons Adventurers League sessions are usually about 2 to 4 hours. They're quite short. There's usually very few combats in those sessions, those adventures, particularly if you're playing something outside of an epic. So therefore, in all likelihood, you will be able to burn up all of your key points, take a short rest, and then continue on. And that would be the go-to with a monk of this nature. And you'll be able to do a lot more than you've ever been able to do with any monk, simply because it conserves so many of those key points. Now, I'm hoping this was useful to you and you found it helpful in some way. If it did, fantastic. I have more videos on the subclasses. I've got another one on how to deal with the Path of the Beast Barbarian. and how to exploit that in your game and use it in your game. I have a whole bunch of videos for Dungeon Masters on some of the Dungeon Master tools and Tasha's. If you're not interested in that sort of thing, that's alright. I have hundreds of videos for players and Dungeon Masters covering every aspect of Dungeons and Dragons. I'm sure you'll find something useful. If you want to support the channel so I keep doing video content like this, you can do that through my Patreon page. I've got an Amazon affiliate link down in the description. I also have a merchandise shelf underneath all of my videos. You can just watch my videos, that's fine. If that's not something you can do, just watch my videos, that's all good. Make sure to share, like, and subscribe. Hit the bell button to be notified when I go live and when I publish new videos if you liked what I just did. And hey, till next time, keep rolling those 20s.